Hello and welcome once again to my channel Adventures of Midlife. In this video, I'm going to talk about my adventure in a desert camp and dune bashing in Oman. During my trip to Oman, I stayed a night at the Sama Al Wasil desert camp in the Wahiba Sands. It was a wonderful experience with some adrenaline pumping dune bashing followed by a quiet night. Even if one of my dreams, which is to shoot some stars in the dark night of the desert, didn't materialize. I have done desert safaris before during my trip to Dubai in 2018, and I knew I would be doing another desert safari in Qatar where I was going to after my trip to Oman. But the Omani desert trip was to be something different. When I read about what I could do and see in Oman, one item that caught my attention was the desert camps. The photos were mesmerizing. Solo, hut-like structures jutting in the otherwise desolated desert, the huts, camps glowing in the nightlight, and above all, star-studded night skies. I had recently bought a wide-angle lens for my DSLR camera and I was raring to do some astrophotography. So I signed up for a night at the Sama Al Wasil camp in the Wahiba deserts through my guide Khair Eddin. To the desert. We left the Misfat Al Abriin mud village on day 2 of our 3-day road trip, and after visiting the beautiful and majestic Nizwa fort and the Nizwa Souk, as well as visiting some halwa shops, we continued with our journey. In the mid-afternoon, the landscape gradually became flatter with that unique brown and at times golden sand visible. This is Oman's desert land, located in the southeastern area of the country. The Wahiba Sands is also called Sharqiya Sands or Ramlat Al Wahiba and is about 12,500 square kilometers in area. It is home to sand dunes as high as 150 feet, which is about 50 meters, as well as hundreds of invertebrates and possibly dozens of mammals, though one doesn't see them often. Before we entered the desert proper, Khair stopped to do something that is crucial for off-road driving. Release some of the tire pressure to make the tires more flat and also to ensure they do not heat up too much because of the high desert heat. Once we entered the desert, there were no paved roads. We drove through sand paths hardened by the passage of previous vehicles. Initially, I saw some short trees, and then it was mostly desert land dotted with shrubs and short trees, possibly acacia trees. In some areas, I even saw what looked like a thin layer of very short grass or a tinge of grass. Parts of this massive desert is teeming with vegetation. And here and there were cement-made modern houses belonging to the Bedouin who have moved from the traditional huts to modern housing, including in-house toilets, air conditioning, etc. A driver going through these desert lands has to know the route well because I am sure the GPS would not be efficient here. And then we reached the Sama Al Wasil camp. I will talk about the Sama Al Wasil camp itself a little later. But first, let's go to the desert adventures. It was, as always, exhilarating when Khair raced up the dune with the sand enveloping our 4x4. As I held my breath, the car would reach the peak and then the even scarier part would begin. driving down as fast as possible. Sometimes, halfway through the run upwards, he would turn the vehicle sideways and let it slide slightly before picking up speed and going up or down.
Yeah. Nice.
In all, dune bashing is a science. One has to gauge the height and possibly the sturdiness of the dune, which see hundreds of fast racing 4x4s every week, and speed accordingly. And while coming down, the driver has to ensure the vehicle doesn't tip over or hit the flat surface too hard. At one point, he raced but stopped at the foot of a dune and pondered. When I asked, he said he was not sure whether the distance was sufficient to accelerate enough so that the vehicle would not skid or even get stuck in the dune. And then he decided not to pursue. And that's the art and science of dune bashing.
Cars park here. So that looks like a parking space.
No, yeah, like people challenging and go up.
Oh, I see.
I used to do last season, but like I don't think this now, because before it was like this, but during summertime because it was a lot of wind.
Yes.
Okay, so now it's like this.
Yeah, now that's
more. That's more only like for small cars in a Jeep. My car is so heavy. Let's try. Like adventure?
Yeah, sure.
I'll not do it my car. I know.
Yeah, then let's not do it.
Because so we'll stop here for sunset. Later we go down from here back to the camp.
Okay.
The landscape was immense and seemingly infinite with cliffs, dunes and valleys. The wind was howling and the sun was starting to set. I set up my camera for a time lapse to capture the sunset while used my cell phone to shoot some videos. And as the sun set, I noticed that 180 degrees away, that is exactly on the other side, the moon was rising. After a while, we got onto the vehicle and did some more dune bashing before returning to the camp. Let's now talk about the Sama Al Wasil Desert Camp. After leaving the check-in area, which also has a store, we passed through a central and circular sitting room with knee walls made up of bamboo and tree barks. The room had the typical Omani style decorated carpets and cushions, and its roof was palm leaves. In the center, there was coffee, tea and some snacks for those who want to rest or simply gather for a chat. The camp's huts were set on a ring-like structure. Outside of the ring, there were even more huts, including the luxury tent-like camps and the dining hall. There was also an open-air theater. In contrast to the desert landscape, the area within the camp was flat, sturdy, and had more greenery. Behind the tents was a dune separated by a fence. All, or at least most of the huts looked new, and each was a structure on its own, with space on either side of it. And each hut had a small porch outside with carpet and cushions. My hut consisted of 3 parts: a small front section with chairs and cushions, a section with a bed, and then a compact toilet and shower. The roof was made up of tree barks. The toilet was modern and the room had enough lights and power outlets. All in all, it looked very modern and chic. In fact, there was even a power converter, which even many high-end hotels don't provide. Or perhaps it was accidentally left by a previous guest. Food. As expected, it was a buffet-style dinner that catered for everyone. We had soup, rice, breads, pasta, tandoori beef, grilled chicken, salads, etc. There was a special section for barbecued camel meat. There was of course desserts, coffee, tea and coke, but unfortunately no alcohol. Post dinner, I prepared for my next adventure, the one I was looking forward to do some astrophotography. I gathered my camera, the lens and the tripod and came out of the hut, and then I noticed it. It was full moon day and of course the bright light was everywhere. I walked around and set up my tripod here and there and took some shots with different settings, but it was useless. One of the employees of the camp came to me to ask what I was doing, and when he realized the cause of my frustration, he took me to a corner outside the dining hall where it was quieter and much darker. It was of no help because the sky was still lit up with the bright moon. After trying with more settings and shooting some photos and checking them, I finally realized this was not a night to shoot stars, so I returned to my camp. I still had a chance to catch the glimpse of the sunrise. To do that, one had to climb the thick string attached to the poles along the rising sand dune behind the tents and reach the cliff, but somehow I didn't make it. For breakfast, we had an international flair with western and Omani breads, sausages, boiled eggs, etc. And of course, the usual Omani tea, coffee and dates. I also had a chat with some of the employees, most of whom had come here to work from India. A little later, it was time to leave the camp. We left and first got our tires reinflated and then headed out on our final journey towards the Wadi Ben Khalid before heading to Muscat. Here is an epic photo of the desert. Someone ditching a single modern toilet in the middle of nowhere where it functions just as a photo op. Because I stayed only one night, I had just done some dune bashing and stayed at the desert camp. But there are other options for visitors. They include camel riding, sandboarding and visiting a Bedouin family and having a meal with them. Well, that's it for now for this edition of Adventures of Midlife. In this video, I talked about my adventure staying a night at the Sama Al Wasil desert camp and doing some adventurous and exhilarating dune bashing in the Wahiba Sands desert. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe if you like it and want to be notified of future videos. Thank you. Ciao.
Tutto bene?
Oh,
Like the Italian what they say, tutto bene.
tutto bene.